Nestled gently within the sparkling waters of the Lagos Lagoon lies a quiet island tucked away from the bustling heart of the city. The island is a place where the busy world seems far away, and the rhythm of life moves with the gentle sway of the waves. The air is always warm, kissed by soft sea breezes that carry the scent of salt and the promise of the sea. The island's shores are lined with tall palm trees that sway lazily in the breeze, casting long, graceful shadows as the sun sets in a blaze of orange and gold. On this island, there lived a mermaid named Zuriya. She was unlike any creature of the sea that the fishermen and villagers had heard of in stories. She was not adorned with glittering jewels or crowned with shimmering pearls. She had no songs that echoed across the waters, enchanting all who heard her. Instead, the mermaid was known for her quiet grace and an inner beauty that shone brighter than any jewel. Her heart was as deep as the lagoon itself, filled with a kindness that touched everything she came across. But there was something about the mermaid that made the islanders look at her with curious eyes. They called her the Barren Mermaid. Unlike the other river spirits in the stories, she had no child to call her own, no little ones to swim beside her, and no laughter to fill the air. Some spoke in hushed tones, calling her cursed. Others said she was lonely, but the mermaid never let their words touch her heart. She carried no bitterness or sadness, only a quiet hope, like the soft glow of the first light of dawn that promises a fresh start. Her smile was gentle, and the world seemed a little brighter whenever she was near. Every day, the fishermen from the island would go out to cast their nets on the lagoon, their boats gliding gently across the water. The market vendors, with baskets full of fresh fish, would call out to passing travelers, selling the fruits of the day's catch. The city of Lagos, just a short distance away, pulsed with energy and life. Its streets crowded with people and vehicles. The city was never quiet, never still. Yet on this island, life moved at a slower pace, as though the world here was still listening to the heartbeat of nature itself. Though the city folk often dismissed the tales of old, seeing them as nothing more than stories for children or old men, those who lived on the island knew there was something more. They had learned to respect the waters and the creatures that lived beneath its surface. And though the mermaid was rarely seen, those who knew her believed there was magic in the air, magic that had lived in these waters long before the city rose up around it. But what most didn't know was that the mermaid's story was far from over. Beneath the calm, rippling surface of the lagoon, a secret was growing, a secret born of love, patience, and the quiet strength of the waters. It was a secret that was woven into the very fabric of the river, and one that would soon change everything for those who lived by the water's edge. In the soft, quiet corners of the island, where time slowed and the past whispered through the palm trees, the mermaid waited. She had waited for what seemed like an eternity, patient as the waves lapped against the shore. And soon, the magic of the lagoon would rise, touching the hearts of all who lived near the water, and revealing a truth that no one could have ever imagined. This was the beginning of the mermaid's story, a story of love, hope, and a secret that would ripple through the lives of everyone around her, forever changing their world. As the day stretches long, the sounds of the island fill the air. The call of fishermen echoes across the lagoon as their boats drift on the calm waters, casting nets that flow effortlessly through the quiet morning light. On the shoreline, children laugh and play, their voices mixing with the song of the breeze. The scent of fresh fish fills the air as market vendors lay out their catch, shouting to passers-by and haggling in the warm sun. The river, though a lifeline to so many, is often forgotten by those who live in the city. The bustling streets of Lagos are far away, their noise drowned by the constant hum of traffic, while the river remains still, polluted by the relentless tide of time and urbanization. It winds through the heart of the city, a vital source of food and trade for the island's people, yet ignored by the city's authorities. But here, on this quiet island, the river still breathes life into its people, weaving itself into the fabric of their days. As the fishermen laugh and joke, They tell stories to pass the time, stories of the old mermaid, the spirit of the river. They mock her openly, calling her the Barren Mermaid, using crude words and laughter to lighten the weight of their work. See that old spirit still out there by the shore. One fisherman says, his voice thick with urban slang, she's been waiting for years. No children, no love, just the lonely waters. She's got nothing to show for it. His laughter rings out across the water, followed by chuckles from the others. Maybe the river doesn't want her to have a baby. Another one adds, shaking his head with a grin. She's all magic and no luck. Leave her to her stories. Their mockery stings, but the mermaid never answers. She only watches from afar, her eyes hidden behind the shadows of the trees that lined the riverbank. In between their banter, the older villagers sometimes speak, their voices soft, but full of weight. Don't mock the spirits of the river. One elder warns, his voice slow, worn from age. The waters have their own power. Many have learned the hard way what happens when you disrespect what's old and wise. But the fishermen laugh, ignoring the elder's words, just as the city turns a blind eye to the river's true power. They're too caught up in their busy lives to see the magic that still stirs in the water. Yet as the sun dips lower and shadows grow long, something shifts. The laughter fades into the soft hum of the evening breeze, and the quiet presence of the river's spirit feels closer. She watches from the edge of the trees, unseen but ever present. Her sorrow, deep as the waters themselves, stirs with silent power, a power that no one yet understands. The islanders may mock, and the city may forget, but the mermaid has waited too long to remain in the shadows forever. As the days pass, strange occurrences begin to stir by the river, subtle at first, but growing in intensity. The fishermen are the first to notice, their nets mysteriously tearing in the night, despite no sign of any fish caught within them. The fine threads, usually strong and steady, snap without reason as if something unseen is lurking just beneath the surface, pulling them apart. Boats rock without a breath of wind, as if some unseen force is pushing them, teasing them, playing with the men who once mocked the waters. The fishermen talk of these oddities, but they dismiss them as accidents, nothing more than bad luck. It's just the tide playing tricks, one says, rubbing his hands together to dismiss the unease. The nets are old, and the river's been rough lately. No need to worry. But even as the words leave his lips, a faint, eerie whisper slips through the night air, carried on the wind. It's not the sound of the waves, nor the calls of birds. It's something else, something ancient, curling around their ears like a warning from the past. The village grows uneasy. The laughter that once echoed through the air now feels hollow, an attempt to mask the growing fear. In the market, vendors gossip nervously about the river's strange behavior. They say the old mermaid's spirit is waking. One murmurs, but the others only shake their heads, unwilling to acknowledge what they don't understand. But the whispers continue, rising from the depths. And beneath the water, hidden from all eyes, a secret is stirring, a secret that has been waiting for too long. Zuriya, the Barren Mermaid, has not been alone in her watch. Deep within the river's dark heart, an unseen child has grown, neither fish nor human, a magical guardian born from the depths, a creature of the river's own making. It moves in the shadows of the water, its glowing eyes flickering in the dark, its power as vast and silent as the lagoon itself. This child, unknown to all but Zuriya, is capable of great power, magic that can stir the winds and break the tides. And so it waits, biding its time, its presence felt only in the tremors of the water and the whispers of the wind. It is a force as old as the river, waiting for the moment when it will be needed most. As the sun dips below the horizon, a distant growl rumbles beneath the water, barely audible, but enough to send a shiver through those who are paying attention. The river stirs with a strange energy, a deep, ancient rhythm that cannot be ignored. The fishermen look to the sky, but the clouds are still and the air is warm. No storm is coming, but the waters are changing. The village, once carefree and oblivious, now feels the pressure of something unseen. A growing tension hovers over them, a knowing that something is coming, something they are not prepared for. And in the shadows, Zuriya watches. Her heart, full of longing, beats in rhythm with the river. She has waited so long, endured so much ridicule, so much loneliness, but now there is a quiet defiance in her gaze. Her child is ready, and the river's power will no longer be ignored. The village may mock her, but the time for silence is coming to an end. The power of the river, and the guardian beneath its surface, will soon reveal itself. It was on a stormy night when the winds began to stir and the air grew thick with an ominous energy that the fishermen of the island set out once more. The river had been restless for days, a quiet warning they had all ignored. The sky above darkened, clouds swirling like smoke, and a distant rumble of thunder echoed in the distance. But still, they pressed on. "It's just another storm," one of the fishermen grumbled, his voice cutting through the growing tension. "We've fished in worse, haven't we? There's no magic in the air, just rain." But even as the words left his mouth, the waters seemed to tremble, a deep, ancient vibration that ran through the river, through their very bones. The first flash of lightning split the sky, illuminating the waters in a brief, blinding glow. In that instant, the fishermen saw it, a colossal shadow moving just beneath the surface, something so massive it seemed to swallow the light. The river churned violently, thrashing like a beast awakened from a deep slumber, and the peaceful lagoon turned into a raging torrent. The storm hit with terrifying speed. Zuriya's child, the creature born from the river's depths, emerged. It was not a creature of flesh, but something far more primal and powerful. Its eyes glowed like burning embers, and its tail, thick and powerful, sliced through the water like a whip. The very waters seemed to bend to its will as it rose, towering over the boats with an otherworldly force. The fishermen's laughter, their mockery of the river's spirit, faded into terror. Boats were smashed to pieces, with splintering under the creature's fury. Men screamed, struggling to stay afloat, as the waters surged, pulling them under. The force of the river's guardian was unstoppable, its power overwhelming. A fisherman, his face twisted in fear, clung desperately to the remains of his boat, his hands slick with the cold, rushing water. "We didn't mean it. We didn't know. Please," he shouted, but the river didn't listen. The waters were no longer the calm, forgiving friend they had once known. They had become a vengeful force, responding to years of disrespect and mockery. The storm raged on, deafening in its intensity, and in the chaos, the villagers could only watch helplessly from the shore. The air was thick with fear as flashes of lightning illuminated the terrifying scene unfolding on the water. The creature's eyes glowed brighter with every strike, and with each pulse of power, the river seemed to roar louder, as if answering the call of its protector. As the boats splintered and the men struggled to survive, the truth became clear. The river was alive. The magic they had mocked, the power they had ignored, was as real as the land beneath their feet. Zuriya's child, the guardian of the river, was no myth. It was the true heart of the lagoon, and its power had been waiting, simmering beneath the surface, for those who dared to disrespect the spirits of the waters. This was not just the fury of nature. This was the river's protector rising, and it would not be ignored. During the storm, Zuriya's silent gaze lingered over the scene from the shadows, her heart heavy with the weight of the years. Her child had done what she could not. The mockery, the ignorance, it had all led to this. But now, as the chaos unfolded, Zuriya's presence was more powerful than ever. She knew the storm would pass, the waves would calm. But this lesson, the one learned too late, would remain forever. The river had spoken, and those who had scorned its spirit would never forget the price of disrespect. As the storm finally subsided and the thunder's roar faded into the distance, the waters of the lagoon slowly began to calm. the once turbulent river settled, leaving behind a silence so deep it echoed through the village. The fishermen who had survived clung to the wreckage of their boats, their faces pale with fear, their bodies exhausted. They had barely made it to the shore, their hands shaking as they stumbled from the water's edge. Some were bruised, others battered, but all were humbled by the power they had witnessed. They looked at the river now, no longer a simple waterway, no longer a source of food or trade. It was something much more, something ancient, something alive. The village, once filled with laughter and mockery, had fallen into a heavy silence. Word of the night the river fought back spread quickly, carried by the winds, reaching the ears of the city. Rumors swirled through the market, through the narrow streets, as stories of the mighty river spirit grew with each telling. Some called it a storm, a freak accident of nature, but the older villagers knew better. They had seen the truth, felt the power, and they knew the spirit of the river had not just risen, it had been awakened. And as the city buzzed with uncertainty, the mermaid, the spirit of the lagoon, appeared once more. This time, she was not hidden in the shadows, but stood in the open, her form both haunting and beautiful. The waters around her shimmered, as if the very river itself had risen to greet her. Her presence was like a whisper carried by the wind, yet her words held the weight of 1,000 years. She gazed upon the fishermen, their faces now full of regret, and spoke in a voice that resonated deep within their hearts. "You mocked what you did not understand," she said, her voice a calm, sorrowful melody. "The river holds ancient power, and the spirits that dwell within it have watched over this land for longer than you can fathom. It is not for you to mock, nor to forget. Respect the waters, for they are the lifeblood of all things." Her words were a solemn warning, a reminder that nature, so often taken for granted, has its rhythms, its laws. The villagers, once so quick to dismiss the old tales, now stood in silence, their hearts full of the weight of what had happened. They had seen firsthand the cost of disrespect, and it had come at a price far steeper than they had ever imagined. The village, once full of laughter at the mermaid's expense, began to change. Where there had been scorn, now there was reverence. The fishermen, who had once ridiculed the river's spirit, now whispered words of respect to the waters as they cast their nets. The elders, whose warnings had gone unheeded, were listened to with renewed respect. And the children, who once played carelessly by the riverbank, now approached the water with awe, as though sensing the power that lay just beneath the surface. As for Zuriya, she slowly faded back into the shadows, her form dissolving into the mist that rose from the river. Her message had been delivered, and the village would never be the same. And so, the river, once again calm and peaceful, returned to its quiet rhythm, its power now fully recognized. But the lessons learned that night of respect, humility, and the cost of forgetting the wisdom of the past lingered long after the storm had passed. In this bustling city, where the noise of the modern world often drowned out the whispers of the past, the river's secret had been revealed. The villagers had been reminded that nature, in all its quiet power, is not something to be taken for granted. It is a force that must be respected, a force that will rise when least expected, but always with the strength to change the world. Now we turn to you, the ones who've watched, listened, and followed this story to its end. What would you have done if you were there that night? How would you have reacted when the river's fury rose, when the power of nature reminded the world of its presence? Do you believe the old spirits still walk among us, even in our modern cities? Do you think there are forces hidden from our eyes that shape our world in ways we can't yet understand? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think. If you enjoyed this story and want more urban African folk tales, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Timeless Epic Folk Tales. You won't want to miss the next tale, where ancient wisdom meets modern life. Stay tuned, because more legends and mysteries await. And if you have your own local legends or folk tales, stories that have been passed down through the generations, don't hesitate to share them with us. we might just feature your story in a future video. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep the magic of these tales alive together.